refrigerator works, right? So refrigerator is it works based on reverse Carnot engine. Okay, so here if you recall, this is the refrigerator. This is the lower temperature body, and this is the higher temperature body. It extracts heat from your body under lower temperature and reject this heat to the body under higher temperature T1. So in order to do this process, let us say W is the work supply. Okay. Now here, this is your surrounding. In case of refrigerator, now this is our system. System is nothing but your refrigerator. Or I can also call it as evaporator. So always it absorbs the heat from this lower temperature body and reject it to the higher temperature body. Naturally, always heat will flow from body under higher temperature to the body under lower temperature. So this is a natural process. But here in refrigerator, so it is occurring in the reverse direction, means the heat is flowing from the body under lower temperature to the body under higher temperature. It's not a natural process. So in order to occur this process, we need to supply certain work. Okay, that is the W is equals to Q1 minus Q2. If you write the energy balance, W plus Q2 both are going inside is equals to Q1 is coming outside. Therefore, W is equals to Q1 minus Q2. Okay, and we can define COP. COP of refrigerator is equals to what is the effect we are getting. Refrigerating effect is nothing but the cooling effect what we require divided by in order to achieve that what we supply. So that is the COP. And here my required effect is cooling effect. So this rejecting the heat is itself is nothing but the cooling effect. This is my desired effect here. So the desired effect is Q2, and for that, in order to achieve this one, I am applying Q1 minus Q2 amount of work. So this is called COP of the refrigerator. And remember, always COP of the system should be greater than 1. Always COP should be greater than 1. Okay. Now coming to our vapor compressor system. Any doubt in working of refrigerator? Anyone please answer. How a refrigerator works, you have idea, right?
Yes, sir.
Means you don't have no for no doubts, right?
No doubt, sir.
Is the work? Yeah, no doubt right now. So basically, this vapor compression refrigeration cycle consists of 4 elements. We have compressor, condenser, expansion valve, or we can also call it as capillary, and evaporator. Okay. So basically, if you see the refrigerator, it is a closed system. Closed in the sense not in terms of doors. Okay. So the refrigerant flowing inside the refrigerator, it is a closed system. Means the continuous supply of refrigerant inside the system. Okay. So if you see, there will be back compressor will be there at the bottom. Then we have condenser coils will be there. Inside we have expansion, and evaporator is our refrigerator inside the refrigerator. Okay. So the refrigerant is flowing inside these pots continuously. Maybe the phase is different. The phase of the refrigerant flowing inside the refrigerator, sometimes it is going liquid, sometimes it is going in the vapor form, sometimes it is a combination of liquid plus vapor. Okay, we will see when the phase is liquid phase, when it is two phase, that is liquid plus vapor, and when it is vapor phase. Okay. Now here, if you draw block diagram, we have condenser. So condenser is also called as heat exchanger, right? It extracts the heat from your body from higher temperature. Okay. So means heat lost by hot body is equals to heat gained by cold object. Let us say cold water is going in and hot water is coming out. Hot out means this water is absorbing heat from the flowing fluid, whatever the fluid inside. Okay, and here I have some wall, let us say expansion wall, or I can also call it as throttle wall. Then here I have my refrigerator, I can call it as evaporator. Our freezer is nothing but the evaporator. Then here I have compressor. This is the compressor, condenser, evaporator. I can call it as expansion or throttle valve. This is the circuit, and this is the air, compressed air, so refrigerant. From the condenser, it will go to the expansion valve. Then after expansion, it will go to the evaporator. There it extracts the heat, and low pressure liquid is allowed to refrigerant. Okay. Now, so means inside this one, the fluid is flowing. So I mean to say the closed system means this is closed one, means the refrigerant is flowing inside a closed part. And sometimes the phase is liquid, sometimes the phase is wave. Okay, so generally we can use ammonia or carbon dioxide or freon or chlorofluorocarbon, so etc. These are the different types of refrigerants we can use inside the refrigerator. Okay, so these are the refrigerator. Now, so whatever the refrigerant we are using, it is flowing continuously within this system, within this part. Okay, so this is the most important and practical form of the refrigeration system for domestic as well as the commercial systems. Okay, right. So the working fluids, as I said, we can use ammonia or carbon dioxide or freon. So, okay, so these fluids are having the ability to change alternatively between vapor and liquid. So they are changing liquid to vapor as well as vapor to liquid when it is passing through the parts. Okay, and the alternate condensation and evaporation takes place, and temperature, pressure close to the atmosphere condition, right? So we'll see while expanding, the pressure may be brought to the atmospheric condition, right? So here first, this is the evaporator where we are getting our, this is here I am getting refrigerating effect. Okay, right. So first, if you see, if let me draw the PV diagram also, PV diagram, so that I can explain easily. Compression, condensation, expansion, evaporation. So means I can say this is 1, this is 1 to 2 compression, 2 to 3 condensation, 3 to 4 expansion, 4 to 1 evaporation. Okay. And similarly TS diagram. So compression is isentropic process, means no heat is added, then condensation, then expansion, isentropic expansion, then evaporation. One, 2 compression, condensation, expansion, evaporation. Okay. Now, now let me explain the working. So 1 to 2, it is isentropic compression process. Okay, and 2 to 3, constant pressure heat rejection process, means this is occurring inside the condenser, and this process is isentropic compression. This is occurring inside the compressor, and this is the expansion process by maintaining enthalpy constant. This is the expansion, and this is the heat rejection process, constant pressure heat rejection process, right? So at 1 to 2, the vapor at low pressure, so the pressure of the vapor leaving the evaporator, the refrigerant leaving the evaporator is in the form of vapor here. So this is
So
the
4 to 1
vapor
is heat
form.
addition, sir.
Okay. 4 to 1 is heat addition to the refrigerant, heat addition in terms of refrigerant, heat rejection with respect to system. Got the point? We are
Yes, sir.
extracting heat from the system, right? Nothing but our refrigerant is taking the heat and the refrigerant system is rejecting the heat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So for clarity, let us take heat addition system. Means, let us say this is my effect. You remember refrigeration effect. Okay. So we are removing the heat from the system. That heat is taken by our refrigerant. Okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay now? Right. So here the refrigerant leaving from the evaporator in the form of vapor, and the pressure is very low and temperature also very low, right? So maybe preferably I can say it is a dry state, is drawn from the evaporator during the suction stroke. So during the suction stroke, the compressor sucks the vapor from the evaporator. So the pressure is very less, temperature is also less. Okay. So during this compressor, the process is isentropic. So where W is the work required for the compression process is taken by some external motor. External motor is used to drive the compressor, because compressor is a work consuming device. In order to drive the compressor, we require some electrical motor. Okay. So due to this compression, the pressure and temperature of the refrigerant will be raised. Okay. So at the compressor exist, the vapor may be wet or dry. So here, right, at the due to the compression, so the condition of the refrigerant may be either wet or dry, or it may be superheated also, depends upon the temperature sometimes. Okay. So in addition to that, the compressor creates the pressure difference required. Understand the thing. In addition to increase the pressure and temperature, not only that, it also create the pressure difference within the system to flow the refrigerant to the condenser as well as to the evaporator. In addition that, it raises the pressure of the vapor. The compressor creates the pressure difference between evaporator and condenser and maintains continuous flow of the refrigerant within the system. Okay, and this compressor may be either rotary type or reciprocating type. The compressors may be here, these refrigerant compressors may be either rotary type or reciprocating type. Okay, so if the plants are having higher capacity, we can go for the rotary compressor. Okay, right. So this is about the compression process. This compressor sucks the low pressure temperature vapor from the evaporator and raises its pressure and temperature, and it will supply the condenser. Right. Now 2 to 3 process. So 2 to 3 process, what is constant here? Here pressure is constant. Pressure is constant, right? So the vapor refrigerant at high temperature and pressure coming out of the compressor. So the state of the refrigerant is still vapor only. The state of the refrigerant entering into the compressor is vapor, leaving from the compressor is also a vapor. So the vapor refrigerant that is under high temperature and pressure is coming from the compressor, is passed or is sent through the condenser, right now. So in this condenser, we are maintaining the pressure constant, but only it is a heat exchanger, means it takes the heat from the refrigerator, the refrigerant, and it lowers its temperature. Means the 2 to 3 process pressure remains constant, only temperature drops takes place. Constant pressure heat rejection process, the condensation. Okay. Again, in our home purpose, you see here I written hot, cold water in hot water out. So, but in our home systems, we don't have any water arrangement for the condenser. Only the atmosphere is used to cool the system, because there will be mesh grill-like structure will be there at the back side of the compressor. By using the surrounding atmosphere, it cools the refrigerant. If you go for industries for high capacities, right? So high capacities, there they use water to cool the media. Okay, now so means the refrigerant leaving the condenser, the refrigerant leaving the condenser is partly liquid plus vapor. Means during this condensation process, the refrigerant loses some of its latent heat. Okay, so thereby the vapor is converted into liquid. Therefore, the refrigerant leaving the condenser may be partly liquid plus vapor. Now this refrigerant is passed through the expansion or throttling valve, right? So the expansion of high pressure refrigerant is done by this throttling process. Okay, so during this process, pressure drops. During this process, pressure drops. Expansion, right? So during the expansion process, pressure drops, but enthalpy, as I said, enthalpy remains constant, right? So due to this drop in pressure, the refrigerant starts boiling. Very, very important. The refrigerant starts boiling, right? Now I have one question here, right? So what is the boiling temperature of water at at atmospheric pressure? Boiling temperature of
100
water,
degrees.
100 degrees centigrade. Boiling temperature at 1 bar is equals to 100 degrees centigrade. But if I decrease the pressure to 0.5 bar, the temperature will be less than 100%, 100 degrees centigrade. Agree? If I decrease the
Yes.
pressure, the temperature required to boil the water will also decrease. In the same way, so here during this expansion process, understand the concept. During this expansion process, the pressure of the refrigerant drops. Okay, so due to this, the liquid starts boiling. Right, in order to boil the boil the liquid, heat is required. Right, so in order to boil the refrigerant, the required heat is provided by the refrigerant itself. The required heat is provided by the refrigerant itself. Consequently, the temperature falls at the throttle exit. So due to the boiling means the refrigerant uses inside the temperature, because the enthalpy is constant. The refrigerant uses inside the temperature and it boils itself. Okay, so therefore the refrigerant is a mixture of liquid plus vapor, right? So again the refrigerant is liquid plus vapor at the end of the expansion valve, right? So wet vapor will be there. It will be wet vapor, and the temperature of the refrigerant leaving the expansion valve, right, is very, very less as compared to the evaporator. Because if the temperature of the refrigerant entering into the evaporator is equal or more than the evaporator temperature, there is no use, there is no transfer of the heat energy. As I said, heat will flow from high temperature to lower temperature. Therefore, the temperature of the refrigerant entering into the evaporator should be less than the evaporator temperature. Then only the heat can flow from the evaporator to the refrigerant. Therefore, the liquid plus vapor state, the refrigerant is entering and it absorbs latent heat from this evaporator, means the space to be cooled or the objects to be cooled. Therefore, this liquid is converted into vapor. Therefore, only vapor form is coming out of the evaporator, but entry is partly liquid plus vapor. In this evaporator, this is our freezer. Evaporator is nothing but our freezer. In this freezer, the refrigerant absorbs the latent heat and this liquid is converted into the vapor. Okay, and one more thing, the refrigerant we are selecting should be having low boiling point, means with so that it can flow easily. Okay, so this is the work, and again the cycle repeats. This is the working of the vapor compression refrigeration system. Any doubt in this one? Please tell me. In terms of PV and TS diagram, please tell me. If you are able to draw PV TS diagram, you can explain. This is PV power gamma equal to constant. This is PV power gamma equals to constant. This is P is equals to constant. This is P is equals to constant. This is heat addition. This is heat rejection. compression, expansion. Students,
Yes, sir. No doubts.
no, clear now? So in the exam, I searched papers, previous papers. Okay, so he's asking problems from gas cycles. That is Otto, diesel, dual cycle. Remaining he is asking just working principle with help of PV and TS diagrams. Okay, so right. So if you require, if time permits, I will solve problem. Hello students, be online. So power fluctuation. So I'm rejoining with help of computer. Be online.
Okay, sir.
Connecting on వస్తుంది కనెక్ట్ కావాలి. Yeah, students. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
Yes,
can
sir.
hear.
Right now, right. Yeah, strength is increased to 15. Oh, good. Right now, so with this our 15 unit is completed, right? So what we discussed in 15 unit? So we discussed Otto cycle, diesel cycle, dual cycle, then Brayton cycle, Bell-Coleman cycle, then
Joule cycles.
right? Yes or no? Joule
Yes.
cycle. Joule cycle is also called as Brayton cycle. Okay, all gas turbines works on that, right? Now, so today I'll give introduction to the fourth unit. Okay, that is our last unit. Let me share the screen. And we discussed Rankine cycle also in between, yes or no? Rankine cycle, all steam power plants works on Rankine cycle, all gas power plants works on Brayton cycle, yes or no? Can you see the screen
Yes, sir.
now? Right. So our fourth unit is properties of pure substances. It's difficult to write. It's okay, no issue. Right. So what is pure substance? Right. We discussed a simple definition of pure substance in first unit. Right. So a substance that has fixed chemical composition throughout its phase is called pure substance. Okay. It should be having a liquid phase or solid phase or gaseous phase. Okay. And not only that, one more definition is there. It's not compulsory that it should exist in one phase. There may be two phases also, but it should be chemically inert, means it should be homogeneous, right? So a pure substance does not have to be a single chemical element or compound. However, a mixture of various chemical elements or compounds also qualifies as a pure substance as long as the mixture is homogeneous, right? So means as we think that it is a single chemical composition. No, it's wrong. A pure substance may be a combination of two phases, maybe liquid solid, liquid gas, solid liquid. So as long as they are homogeneous in mixture, we can call it as a pure substance. Okay, I'll give an example here. Next slide. So, right. So phases of a pure substance. So as we know, any substance in the universe can exist in any of these three phases. Maybe solid phase or liquid phase or gaseous phase, right? So the substance exists in different phases at room temperature and pressure, right? So if you see at room temperature, copper will be a solid, but mercury is a liquid. Even water is also a liquid, right? So depends on the substance. Now we see what is solid, what is liquid, what is gases. What are the differences between solid, liquid, and gases? Now, as we know, in solid molecules, you can see all the molecules are tightly packed. Means they are having strong intermolecular force of attraction. They have rigid shape and size as well as volume. Right. So in the solids, there is no gap between the molecules. They are tightly packed, very close to each other. So due to this, they have rigid in structure. Whereas in liquids, the intermolecular force of attraction is less as compared to the liquid solid. The intermolecular force of attraction is less as compared to the solid. Okay, so that's the reason they have shape, right? Now they have only volume, right? So the shape depends upon the container in which we are pouring. Whereas coming to the gases, the intermolecular force of attraction is very, very weak. Okay, means let us say if you take three substances on a table, if you keep the table, it remains in that position, whereas liquid tends to flow, right? It depends on the gravity or slope, whereas coming to gas, it will easily escape to the atmosphere. Okay, so here the strong intermolecular force of attraction will be there. Here it will be less intermolecular. Here it will be weak, we can say. Okay, so these are the differences between solid, liquid, and gases. Now, so phase change process at constant pressure. If you see, but now let us consider a bowl or container. It consists of water at room pressure, atmospheric pressure and room temperature, 1 bar pressure and 20 degrees centigrade. And we started heating that. Right? So what will happen from state 1 to state 2? What happened? Tell me. State 1 to state 2. Anyone please answer.
Temperature increase.
Temperature is increased. Is there any change of the phase? Here it is in liquid phase. Here it is also in liquid phase. This type of heating is called what? What is the heating name of this
Sensible
process?
heating, sir.
Very good. Sensible heating. Sensible heating means phase remains constant, only temperature changes. Now, means because here it is liquid form, here also it is liquid form. Now, state 2 to 3, part of the liquid is converted into vapor. Agree? Temperature is same,
Yes.
but by addition of the heat further, certain amount of liquid is converted into vapor. Now, the process 2 to 3 is called what? Latent heating. Yes or no? Right? So, latent heat means temperature remains same, but phase change occurs. Here in sensible heating, same phase but different temperatures. Okay. Now, here again from state 3 to 4, what happened? The water starts converting into vapor. Yes or no? The water starts converting into vapor. Now again, the temperature is increased from 100 to 300, right? So usually the water at 1 bar pressure or 1 atmosphere pressure boils at 100 degrees centigrade. So beyond that point, it will become as superheated. It will be called as superheated steam or superheated vapor. Okay. So I'll explain in detail in coming slides. Right. Let us consider the temperature versus entropy diagram. I think in last class I shown you constant pressure line. Can anyone remember this? Maroon color one
Yes,
is
sir.
the constant pressure line. Okay, means on this line the pressure remains constant, because if you see in the previous slide, the pressure is 1 bar pressure. So you can see all these states, the pressure is 1 bar, means I can say it is constant pressure heating process. Okay. Now, so here I'll in maybe next slide you can see. First, let me explain next slide, then I will come to this one. Now, you can see here in the TV or TS diagram. Now, this line, this left side line is called saturated liquid line. Saturated liquid line, and this right side line is called saturated vapor line. And this saturated liquid line and saturated vapor line are intersecting at a point. That point is called a critical point. Above this critical point, it will behave as a perfect gas. Okay, means if you take any point on this line, that will be liquid. If you take any point on this line, that will be in the form of vapor. Okay, again you can see there are two dotted lines over here. These lines denotes the constant pressure lines. Okay, so this is P1 pressure, this is P2 pressure, and again if you move upwards, the pressure is increased in the order. Means you can say P2 is greater than P1, like that. Okay, so this is a critical point. Now, here, if you move left of this line, this is saturated liquid line. I can call this as compressed liquid region or subcooled region. It is a compressed liquid region, or I can say it is subcooled region. And if you move right of this one, this is superheated region. If you move right side of this one, it is the superheated region. And in between this liquid and vapor, it is called combination of liquid and vapor. It is a combination of liquid and vapor. Now come to our clear now. You should remember what is saturated liquid line, what is saturated vapor line, what is subcooled region, what is superheated region, and what is combination. Okay, and below this line it is the solid. This is the solid portion. Now come to our slide. Now this is the subcooled liquid or compressed liquid, and this is a saturated liquid, and this is the superheated liquid. Okay, now first, if you start heating, what will happen? By maintaining the pressure constant, so you can see 20 degrees centigrade, at 100 degrees centigrade it starts boiling, right? So by maintaining the pressure constant, what will happen? So the heating is continuous, and at point 4 it reaches to vapor form. At point 4 it reaches to vapor form. Further adding the heat, it converts the saturated vapor into superheated vapor. And I can say here saturated liquid line and saturated vapor line are denoted by its dryness fraction. So on this liquid line, the dryness fraction is 0. So it is a liquid, therefore there is no dryness fraction. Whereas in saturated vapor line, the dryness fraction is equals to 1. The quality of the steam equal to dryness fraction is number, the quality of the steam, and on vapor line this value is equals to 1, and on vapor liquid line the dryness fraction equals to 0, and if you move up it will be greater than 1. Right. So what is saturation? I'm talking about saturated liquid, saturated vapor, right? So saturation is defined condition in which a mixture of vapor or liquid can exist together at a given pressure and temperature. Saturation, it is the condition in which a mixture of liquid and vapor can exist together at a given temperature and pressure. Okay, that is the saturation. And saturation pressure is the pressure at which the liquid and vapor phases are in equilibrium at the given temperature. So see the difference between these two. It is the pressure, it is the condition. Okay, saturation pressure is the pressure at which the liquid and vapor phases are in equilibrium at the given temperature. Okay, and for the pure substance there is a definite relation between pressure and saturation temperature. As you know, if you decrease the pressure, the saturation temperature, nothing but the boiling temperature, you increase the pressure, the temperature also increases. Means the higher the pressure, the higher the saturation temperature. Means I explained 1 bar pressure, 100 degrees centigrade is the boiling temperature, and if you decrease the pressure, the temperature also decreases. Okay, now you can see here, if you see the table, saturation, nothing but boiling, saturation pressure of water at various temperatures. Okay, now at various temperatures. Now, so what is saturation pressure of? So we can see this is 1 bar. 1 bar is also equivalent to 100 kilopascal. 1 bar is nothing but 1 into 10 power 5 Pascal. 1 into 10 power 5 means 10 power 2 into 10 power 3, 1 into 10 power 2, 100. This means 1 bar is nothing but 100 kilopascal. 100 kilopascal is nothing but 1 atmospheric pressure. At 1 atmospheric pressure, the water boils at temperature 100 degrees centigrade. This 100 degrees centigrade is the boiling temperature corresponding to this particular pressure. Right? And if you decrease the pressure, the pressure, what happens to temperature? Temperature is also decreasing, right? If you decrease the pressure of the water, the boiling temperature is also decreasing. Means if you see, if the pressure is 0.4 kilopascal, if the pressure is 0.4 kilopascal, then at minus 5 degrees centigrade it starts boiling. Got the point? If you decrease the pressure, the boiling temperature is also decreasing, and if you increase the pressure, let us say instead of 100 kilopascal, if it is 476 kilopascal, the boiling temperature is 150 degrees centigrade. Means this graph shows the relation between the saturation pressure and saturation temperature. So at 100 degrees centigrade, the water boils at 1 bar pressure, that is 100 kilopascal. And if you increase the pressure, the temperature is also keep on increasing. This is the graph. Right. So if the substance exists as a liquid at the saturation temperature and pressure, is called saturated liquid. If a substance exists as a liquid at the given temperature and pressure, that is called saturated liquid. If the temperature of liquid is lower than the saturation temperature, or the given pressure, it is called subcooled or compressed liquid. As you remember, in TS diagram, if you move left of the saturated liquid line, if you move left side of the saturated liquid line, means at that time the temperature is lower than the saturation temperature. Okay, so the temperature is lower than the saturation temperature, therefore that region is called subcooled liquid or compressed liquid. Okay, and if you move right side of that, next slide, if you move right side of that, then that is called superheated vapor. Means at that time the temperature is greater than the saturation temperature. If you are moving towards right, means the temperature is increasing. If the substance exists entirely as vapor, if the substance exists entirely as liquid, that is saturated liquid at the temperature, right? If the substance exists as vapor at the given temperature, that is called saturated vapor, right? If you increase the temperature of the vapor, then we can call it as superheated vapor. Means it will move right side of the saturated vapor line. The pressure and temperature of superheated vapor are independent properties, since the temperature may increase while the pressure remains constant. Okay, so because we are heating all the process at maintaining constant pressure, you can see here same that one only. At 100 degrees centigrade, at 100 kilopascal, the water boils. Right, I think latent heat of fusion, latent vapor, right? So latent heat is nothing but the amount of energy absorbed or released during the phase change process. Latent heat means there will be change of the phase. Okay, so the amount, so during that process the energy may be absorbed or released. Let us say if you want to convert liquid to vapor, it is absorption process. If you want to convert vapor to liquid, it is the rejection, releasing process. Depends, right? And latent heat of fusion is nothing but the amount of energy absorbed in order to melt that one. Means in order to melt ice to water, we can call it as latent heat of fusion. The amount of heat energy required to convert the ice into water is called latent heat of fusion. And latent heat of vaporization is nothing but the amount of energy required, right now, the amount of energy required during the vaporization, and it is equivalent to the energy released during the condensation. Right now, it is nothing but the condensation. At 1 atmospheric pressure, the latent heat of fusion of water is 333.7 kilojoules per kg, and latent heat of vaporization is this much, right? So this is to convert solid to liquid, and this is to convert liquid to vaporization, and this is the fusion. Okay, so with this we'll stop today. In next class I will discuss about dryness fraction, that is nothing but quality of the steel.
Sir,
Any doubt?
questions for it.
So in this we will discuss steam. No